Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
That, as they say, is that. Marvel Comics, let's go ahead and get started. How's it going, all you Minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And today's the day. Today's the day that I get to talk about your top 20 most wanted Marvel Omnibus Reprint 2024 edition. So let's go ahead and get started. Another year, another poll closes, and another list of top 20 most wanted Marvel Omnibus reprints. Before I go any further though, please don't forget to smash that like button. It's a very small thing you can do for us here on the channel, but it means the world to us. And a big thank you to James and Chris and Taylor and of course Luis, who started all this with his easier way of taking these polls. Big thank you to all of you for helping me do this particular poll this year. So for the last few years I've been doing polls. Before that I was suggesting what to reprint for Marvel Comics, but then yeah, about 4 years ago I wanted to start doing it for the community. We started with social media, and then Luis and James approached me about doing it an easier way, which is Google Docs. So in case people don't have Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, everybody can vote, and that's what happened this time. Everybody voted. And man, for the people that always think that, you know, the polls are always the same every year, as the guy that gets to see the polls, no, they're so different. I went ahead and sent the top 20 over to David already, so him and Marvel can decide what to reprint. And I probably will end up sending the top 25 just in case, like I did last year. It used to be just top 10 that I would send their way. And we just started getting them all, and I think in 2 years ago they reprinted 15 out of the 20. But let's take a look at how well we did last year together. So here on my right hand side, or your left, is what the poll looked like, the results of the poll from 2023. So just looking at all of these right now, either they've come out already as reprints, or I've already announced them as reprints, with the exception of number 7 there, which is Bishop's Crossing Executioner Song. That was the first time it was added to the poll last year, and it's an X-Men book, and that's what I always try to do, add an extra X-Men book that was never reprinted as an omnibus, or never released as an omnibus. But in that case, kind of like the Extinction Agenda, the books were put together with Bishop's Crossing and Executioner Song. So we'll see how well it did this time around. But 19 out of 20, and I think I sent them the top 23 last year, so it's more like 21 out of the 23. Not bad. Not bad. All right, I will be putting the full list, if you're curious about where your book ended on the list, on our Patreon. I've done that every year for the last few years, and the link to our Patreon is in the description of the video. Now, if you don't see your book that you voted for, I'm sorry, but there's always a chance that Marvel could reprint it. Just because it doesn't make it on the list doesn't mean that Marvel won't reprint something. We've seen it in the case last year of Captain America Omnibus, the Silver Age, volumes 1, 2, and 3, and the Jack Kirby Omnibus, all reprinted. That wasn't books that you all voted for. So just keep that in mind. All right, here we go. Oh, I'm sorry. One very more important thing to say. I know everybody's anxious and ready to go. But Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus 2, I did take it off the list because it's getting a restock in May. So if you go to cheapgraphicnovels.com right now, you can pre-order the restock, so make sure you pre-order it. So I did take it off the list because David decided to just make it a stealth restock instead of a reprint. So it's only the standard edition cover, so keep that in mind. But I was asked to remove it off the list. So that, and in case you were wondering how high that ranked, that was number 7. So it bumped this book up to the top 20. So we're going to start with X-Statix Omnibus. Woo! I remember somebody on the Saturday stream was asking, oh my gosh, I forgot to vote. Please let me know how well X-Statix did. And I was looking at the list and I'm like, oh my gosh, it made it as the 21st pick. But because Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 2 got taken out, now we can put in X-Statix Omnibus. So it's only had one printing. It's the Peter Milligan and Mike Allred and Laura Allred series. If you haven't had a chance to read it, oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good. Big fan of this series. Now, don't expect things like X-Force, because it is a continuation of X-Force, but Peter Milligan just does his own thing. They do their own thing. Quirky as hell, but big fan of it. Number 19, X-Men by Chris Claremont and Jim Lee Omnibus Volume 1. I didn't think that would make it, but you all voted for it. It was reprinted a couple of years ago, and it was one of the biggest selling Omnis at the time as far as a reprint. Sold better than the original printing, so make sure you pre-order. And it makes me happy because the people that missed out on it can now get it, as well, that is if Marvel decides to reprint it, and as well as the Extinction Agenda Omnibus that I announced. So very cool that now, hopefully, that can be reprinted for the people that missed out on it. Secret Wars 2 Omnibus. You all voted for Secret Wars, I believe, last year, wasn't it? Or maybe 2 years ago. And they reprinted it. But Secret Wars 2 didn't make it on the list. And now it's on the list as number 19. So it is the follow-up. It is a huge omnibus for a series of, I think it was only 8 issues. Or was it 12? No, it was 8. It's got all the tie-ins. It's got the Secret Wars 3 storyline from Fantastic Four. But just keep that in mind. It's a lot more than just Secret Wars. Every single tie-in is in there. With, of course, license exceptions. Thor, Heroes Return, Omnibus Volume 2. I kind of figured that would make it in there, because a lot of people have been asking for this particular book. I've seen it a lot, like, popping up a lot. Now, I don't know if they're going to try to reprint Volume 1 first, and then give us the Volume 2. I don't know exactly, because sometimes they do go ahead and reprint what you ask for, and then sometimes they reprint, oh, well, Thor we see in our system is out of print, Heroes Return, even though it's available everywhere. So, hopefully they'll just give us this one. Wolverine, Jason Aaron Omnibus. So that is the very first Wolverine, Jason Aaron Omnibus, and it's the one that leads into the Wolverine Goes to Hell Omnibus, and that, of course, leads into the Wolverine and the X-Men Omnibus, which you all voted for in the past and got reprinted. But that is now at number, what is that one? Where am I at? 16. Number 15, Daredevil by Charles Soule Omnibus. Last year, Daredevil just dominated the reprint poll. It was so much Daredevil, but there were a couple that didn't make it. So this time around, the Charles Soule run is making it in at number 15. That's only had one printing, and that one fits in after the Mark Waid run and before Chip Zdarsky. And if it's out of print, it makes sense why people are excited to vote for it. Wow, right on top of that one at number 14, another Wolverine book. Surprisingly, Mark Millar Omnibus. And I'm sorry, I don't mean surprisingly. I just saw a lot of people ask for Wolverine Omnibus Volume 1. Now, that did make it in our top 25, but not the top 20. So I was surprised to see Mark Millar in here, but then again, it's one that has only had one printing. It's got 2 very popular stories by the fan base that, you got Enemy of the State in there, and you've got Old Man Logan. So it makes sense that people are demanding it to be reprinted, because it's been out of print for a couple of years now. Number 13, Star Wars Legends, The Old Republic Omnibus. Very happy to see this. This was probably one of my favorite reads in 2021 when it came, I think 2020 or 2021 when it came out. I had never read this stuff, and it was amazing, taking place thousands of years before the Skywalker saga. It's when the Jedi were just full themselves, really, and powerful, and establishing order across the galaxy. But there's always a darkness there, but very happy that that got voted for. And the next one, number 12, Astonishing XMen Omnibus. Now, that's had 2 printings in the past, and I think in 2020 or 2019 is when the second printing came out. So this will be the 3rd printing. And if you're wondering why I'm not showing any of the covers, that's because I have no idea what cover they're going to use. Sometimes Marvel uses um, the covers they've used in the past, but sometimes, like in the case of the Eric Larson SpiderMan reprint, they're giving us new covers. So that's why I don't really show the covers, but if you look online, you can kind of see what covers are available already. Next one on the list, of course, is a countdown. Pretty sure you can tell now. Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 2. Very high on the list. Really surprising. The books had two, I think 2 or 3 printings. But the last printing went quick because it came out at that weird time whenever they were doing small printings. And always keep that in mind. When these books do come out, when I announce them, I always tell people to pre-order them. To not just show Marvel that you're interested in the book, but also to lock your book in, because pre-orders for reprints always tend to be smaller than new printing books. And that's always the case whether it's Marvel Omnis or Epics. By the way, I will be doing the Epic list next week with Curtis, going over the books that are out of print for the Marvel Epics and then having you all vote on them. And that is on March 7th at 11 a.m. Taylor's going to help us out with that. Kind of like the way Peter M., myself, and Taylor kicked off this particular poll this year. We're going to do a live poll for the people that are interested in that. Next one on the list, Punisher Max by Garth Ennis Omnibus Volume 2. We are getting a Volume 1 reprint in 2024. We're getting the Jason Aaron Max reprint. And this one got voted as number 10, so kind of makes sense. Now, these next 3 really surprised me. Every one of these, because now we're looking at the top 9, but every one of these surprised me for different reasons. So let's go with number 9, Annihilation Conquest Omnibus. Annihilation Conquest Omnibus has had 2 printings. The first one that came out originally, I think it was 2012, 2014. And then there was a reprint with a brand new direct market cover. And that one stuck around for a while. And out of nowhere, it just kind of went out of print. And it surprises me because I didn't think it was going to be voted so high this year. This is one that, first of all, I had no idea it was out of print. And it got voted really high. Now, the next 2 will make sense. Coming in at number 8 is War of Kings Prelude Omnibus. And the thing that surprises me about this one is that I'm surprised it wasn't voted 2 years ago when people were voting for War of the Kings. It was after Annihilation had 2 different printings, or no, 3 different printings, after Annihilation Conquest had 2 printings, and War of the Kings was voted. But no signs of War of the Kings Prelude. So number 7 is War of the Kings Aftermath Omnibus. So all those 3 make up the modern cosmic saga, which is so amazing. That was Annihilation, Annihilation Conquest, then the War of the Kings Prelude, War of the Kings, and then the War of the Kings Aftermath. All 5 Omnis make this amazing, like, one of my favorite storylines ever, and what introduces us to a lot of the characters, like the new Guardians of the Galaxy that James Gunn used for his movies. It was all an inspiration from this. And War of Kings Aftermath and Prelude have only had 1 printing, so I'm glad to see them on the list. It kind of makes sense. Surprised they weren't on the list a couple of years ago, but I am surprised they're so high on the list. So, as I always state, whenever I announce something, like whenever I announced the Annihilation Conquest Omnibus, I was like, now go and get your War of the Kings and other books, or get the Annihilation Omnibus because it'll be out of print. This always happens. So while you still can, make sure you get the modern cosmic books that you can before these are officially reprinted. Because I would hate for people to miss out on any of these to complete their collection. Alright, as I mentioned before, Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 2 would have been here, but I was asked to remove it because they're doing a restock. So remember, go and pre-order your restock. So, what is coming in is Daredevil by Brian Michael Bendis Omnibus Volume 2. And that one brings it back home to me. That one reminds me of the first few books that I got to announce for Marvel Comics. It was Annihilation, it was Bendis Volumes 1 and 2, and it was the Peter David Hulk Omnibus. That was my very first breaking news, and the one that I found out about during a phone call with David Gabriel. And he was like, hey, you want to announce these? I said yes. And my life has never been the same again. Man, it feels just like yesterday that that conversation took place. All right, the top 5. Here we go. You all voted for these. Punisher by Rick Remender Omnibus. Very happy to see that. We've seen a reprint of the Garth Ennis Max. The Max 2 got voted on here. We've seen a reprint of the Jason Aaron that's coming out later this year. And we've had 2 printings of the Marvel Knights Garth Ennis Omnibus. But Punisher by Remender, which has an amazing story. I know it's hokey as hell. I don't care. Frankencastle with Tony Moore is freaking amazing. Ridiculous, but amazing nonetheless. But now that is coming in. And, man, surprisingly, actually I'm not that surprised that it's in the top 5. All right, coming in at number 4 was a book I added to the list this year that was originally an oversized hardcover, but every year I let my patrons vote for one X-Men book extra book I can add as an oversized hardcover to Omnibus, and that is X-Men Fatal Attractions, coming in at number 4. This is the big crossover that Magneto comes back, and of course, the X-teams get together to fight against Magneto. There's some casualties, there's a big destruction that takes place, betrayal, twists and turns, and of course, they'll fight with Wolverine. Alright, now we're moving on to the top 3. The next 2, did not see them coming. Honestly, I am super surprised, because every year that I've done these sometimes don't make it. Last year, they weren't even in the top 30. So I'm very surprised that they're taking up slots 3 and 2. And for anybody that ever doubts these lists and that there's no love out there for Silver Age, it is my absolute pleasure to get to announce, coming in at number 3, Tomb of Dracula Omnibus Volume 2, the most sought after, probably Silver Age book out there. That and Thor 2, I think, are 2 of the biggest ones. So, at number 2 is Tomb of Dracula Omnibus Volume 1. Voted higher than Tomb of Dracula Omnibus Volume 2. Damn, I am taken back. Those are ones I voted for. But, you know, I always tell people to vote for what they want. And I'm really surprised that there's a lot of interest for these characters that appear in these books. There's some awesome Gene Colan artwork in there. And Volume 1 has had 2 printings, but Volume 2 has only had 1, and Volume 3 has only had 1 printing. Long gone. And even in the aftermarket, they get ridiculous. But I'm very, very happy to see surprised where they ended up on the list. So, damn, good job, you all, for the people that wanted them. And, yeah, we did have to remove some fraud emails. Next time you vote with fraud emails, remember to at least try to get a little more creative than just using your name again, at something, or IP addresses, voting for the same thing in the same tier. All right. It happens every year, but that's okay. With over 4,100 votes this year compared to last year, I think it was 4,400. Coming in at number 1, that's in total, by the way, that's how many people voted, not just for this book. Coming in at number 1, X-Men's Bishop's Crossing Executioner Song. I guess you all saw what happens when the Extinction Agenda, what Marvel's going to do, and you're hoping that they do this. And if they do decide to do this, part of me kind of hopes they put in the Shattershot OHC in there too, making this a really big book, but completely worth getting, because that one's out of print too. And of course, I will try to do what I can to make that happen. And I will point out the fact that that one got voted on last year, but because they were 2 different OHCs, I can see that taking a lot more time to put together, kind of like the Extinction Agenda and remapping everything. Now that is your list. If and when I get to announce these books, check out all of these wonderful sponsors where you can pre-order them.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walts Comics Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walts Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
BDC Cosmos, the Canadian leader in graphic novels. They have a physical storefront in Montreal, Quebec, and their website, bdcosmos.com, offers 25% off your order of over $99 or more, and free shipping everywhere in Canada for every order of $200 or more.
Their shipping care is exceptional. Your books will stay cozy through the rough Canadian weather and arrive to you in near mint condition.
After checkout, let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way, and you'll be added to the monthly $25 gift card raffle. Entries are valid for new and returning customers.
Don't be afraid to call or email them. Ask them questions. Their staff is always happy to help guide you towards the right purchase. Visit their website, bdcosmos.com, for more. BD Cosmos, with rewards and raffles taking care of customers in Canada. Eh?
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the list of your most wanted Marvel Omni reprints for 2024. Again, if you want to see the full list, I will be putting that on Patreon. And a big thank you to our patrons for making videos like this completely possible. A big thank you to James and Taylor and Chris and of course Luis, who originally reached out to me. And we're working with Tiger Eyes to do that most wanted Marvel Omnibus that has never existed poll. But the next one we're working on, again, come back on March 7th, if you care, of course. Everybody does. March 7th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're kicking off the Marvel Epic reprint poll. And that will be a live kickoff like we did with this poll. And then we'll focus on Tiger Eyes poll for most wanted Marvel Omnis. We're going to have a DC Omnibus and Absolute reprint poll and a most wanted DC Omnibus poll. Very busy. But I love doing this, and I'll be emailing my contacts at DC. And whatever they want to do with that list, it's up to them. But I do want to make sure that they get the message that there's a lot of demand for these books. Thank you, everybody that took the time to vote. Thank you, everybody that took the time to watch. Don't forget to smash that like button. That's it for me. I'm just a messenger. But that is all I've got for today. Stay healthy and safe out there. Make mine Marvel.